Hi, today we're going to talk about how to do a foursquare for our science vocabulary. Now, this should look pretty familiar and look like something you've done a lot in other classes. This is just the slightly different way that we're going to do it in our science class. So, in the top left-hand corner, we're always going to write out and put the vocabulary term. And in the top right-hand corner, we're going to copy out word for word the definition. We're not going to skip words. We're not going to summarize. We're just copying word for word the definition that's off the sheet we were given. Now, I would always do the vocabulary term and definition for all the words in our list before I circle back around and look at the keywords. The keywords are what words in this definition are really the most important that I need to focus on. So if I'm looking at condensation, the process in which water vapor in the atmosphere becomes liquid. Well, I'm assuming this is probably in a list where I also have evaporation and precipitation. So I'm really not as interested in the process in which. I think the most important words I need to know is water vapor becomes liquid. Now, this is super important because when you're studying your vocabulary, please remember on the tests, our unit test, you're going to have questions with vocabulary. You are never, ever going to be given the word for word vocabulary definition and have to match it up with the term. That's just asking if you can memorize, not do you understand. If you understand that condensation is when the vapor turns back into a liquid, it doesn't matter how I ask you, you'll know it. Now also, the bottom left is where we're going to draw a picture. I caution you not to try and hurry up and draw pictures. Save those. Leave it blank for a while until you're in the unit and you have a better idea of what does this look like. Now, for condensation, I was picking a cold can that on a humid day, we start to get the little drops of water on it. We all recognize that and should know that's condensation. But another definition that we've had before in a different class was vector. This is all about something that carries a disease or infectious agent from one animal to another. Now, if you go to Google Images and you type in vector, that might be the first image that comes up. Hey, there's the bad guy from Despicable Me, Vector. There's a great picture. Except, well, if I know the movie, that might help me remember the word vector. It's not doing anything to really help me know the meaning. And if I also look at this one, well, here's a picture that we would get from something with physics or math. Again, not really what I'm looking like for this definition. I might instead find a picture of or draw a picture of a mosquito, because the mosquito, if it bites somebody with malaria and then later comes and bites me, I'm getting malaria because the mosquito brought it from somebody else. The mosquito is the vector. So I always want to pick pictures that make sense for the definition. And I really won't understand that until later when we're inside of the unit. So you always want to kind of pause and go slow on that. Now, let's take a look at our sheet. Obviously, some things to remember. Anytime we have the heading, we need to write out our first name and our last name. Even if I'm the only Michael in class, the teacher's grade book is alphabetical by the last name. I need to put today's date. I need to put my class, and I need to put down my seat number. Those are all the things so the teacher, when they pick things up, can get them back to me quickly. On the foursquare, you have one of these for each of the vocabulary terms. So if I'm doing the first one, I'm writing out the term here. And then I'm going to write out the definition next to it. Make sure I'm writing out the entire definition. Don't skip words. Don't just copy. Again, Don't go to the keywords until you've looked at all of the definitions, because until you've looked at all the definitions, you don't know what makes this one different than the others, because we have force, we have a net force, an unbalanced force, and a balanced force. And friction is a force. So all of those I need to know, well, what makes force by itself? I'm probably going to come back and say, well, the most important part of this is that a force is a push or pull. The acting on an object, I think, is less important for me to focus on. I'm going to stick with push or pull. So do that for all 10 vocabulary terms. When you've got one that's like the reference point, here's a longer definition. Now, with my handwriting this size, I can write the whole definition in this box. If your handwriting is a little bit big, you can write and borrow some space. I'm going to write reference point over here. I now have some extra space. So if I need to, I can kind of ignore this middle line and I can use all of this space for writing out my definition, and everything still fits. All right, so make sure you get all of the 10 done. If you don't get them done in class, make sure that they get finished up at home over the next couple of days. All right, see ya.